Hi, everyone. Good to see you all. I'm delighted to be here today to chat about my books, Girls Play 2. Hopefully, some of you have seen them. And if you haven't, I'm going to give you a bit of a flavor today about what it took to write the books, a little bit of the inspiration behind it, and some of the characters involved. So hopefully you get something from this as well. It might be a nice little Christmas present for those people in your lives who maybe haven't seen this one before. So there's two books. The first one came out last year. It was a first lockdown project. And the second one came out this year, another lockdown to write another book. And look, the big inspiration for me with this has always been talking about female role models. There has never been a shortage of them. You know, from when I was a young girl, it was Sonia O'Sullivan in the middle of your screen there. She was my hero when I was a child, but really she was the only one. And if you think about it now, you've got the likes of Katie Taylor, you've got Rachel Blackmore, you've got Ellen Keane winning a Paralympic medal this year, Joy Neville, who's a superstar referee on the world stage, people like Rena Buckley winning 18 All-Ireland medals. So we've never had a shortage of role models. But the big problem has always been that young girls don't know about them. And I'm going to show you this video now, and maybe it'll give you a sense of what I'm talking about.
I love running, I'm very good at it. All my family calls me Speedy.
I'm black belt. I got whacked in the knee today with a hurl.
When you get in the boat, you just get this rush.
Ronaldo,
Paul Pogba, Usain Bolt,
Jack McCaffrey,
Rory McIlroy.
women's sports stars. I don't really know any of the girls, so. Whenever people are recording things, they want to record girls for some reason.
Oh, you have to come to this match, it's going to be great. And then the women's are just kind of like, oh, come if you can.
The only thing that they pass to us if the teacher makes a rule saying you have to pass to 5 girls before you can score. In my head, I would be like, you should have passed to me. Then, real life, I just don't say anything.
So as you can see there, young girls are still finding it hard to identify with their female sports role models. So I thought, let's share their stories and let's talk to you guys directly so that we can start sharing them and that you can understand who they are and know a little bit more about your female sports role models, because there's that slogan there, if she can't see it, she can't be it. But the power of when you can see it is actually really, really incredible for kids. And that's why this is a children's book series rather than an adult's book series. Because I've often said to people, it's not one or the other. You don't have to, just because you love Robbie Henshaw, it doesn't mean that you can't love Bavian Parsons and watch the women's team either. I've never advocated that we should be only watching just women's sport. It's actually, let's get out there and watch both, because there's lots of Irish teams playing. We've got Irish women's soccer team, we've got the Irish men's soccer team, and we can actually go and support both. And it's the same with the rugby. So I would always say to parents, let's try to get out there and support both, because you're actually showing your kids that there's more than just men's sport on the TV. And it's really, really simple, because when you see it, I see it with my 7-year-old son. Now he knows when the women are playing. And often if there's a match on TV and I'll say, oh, do you want to watch the Ireland match tonight? He'll actually say, boys or girls. And I love that, that he knows now that there's a difference, which is brilliant. So I think it's always, let's just tell kids it's not just one or the other. When I was putting the book together, I suppose for me, I'm sure for a lot of you guys, you read a lot of books. Lots of fairy tales for girls are about princesses and castles. And I just thought, that's a lovely fairy tale, but it doesn't have to be the only one, because some fairy tales can be a dream that you had. Some of them might start in your backyard and you really want to go to the Olympic Games, which is exactly what happened to Katie Taylor. And look what she did. So for me, it was just about trying to captivate an audience with a story that's real. Like, these are real life fairy tales. Let's give you a lovely image. And I'll tell you a little bit about the illustrations in a minute. And then the other thing was, I don't know if any of you collect autographs, but when I was younger, I loved collecting autographs. I went to matches all the time, took my book with me and asked people for their autographs. And I still have that to this day. When I met Sonia O'Sullivan for the first time about 10 years ago, I showed her a book that I had with her autograph in it. And just what it meant to her and what it meant to me. Just she laughed and she was saying, God, I don't even remember that. And I was like, well, of course you don't, because you probably signed thousands of autographs in your career. But it meant a lot to me. And that's why I put autographs in this book. And when I asked the athletes about it, they were really delighted with that as well. They loved the idea of giving their autograph to kids. The hardest part about any book that involves a lot of people is choosing who goes in it. If any of you have ever seen The X Factor, that's what I would akin this process to, because you can see all the post-its that I have on the desk there, and I had to pull in some of my colleagues to help me. We had to choose who was going to be in it, and it took ages because it was all kinds of like, this was like the judges' houses stages where we wrote our names on the pages and we all like made bids for different people, and then eventually we ended up with our list, which, as you can see from the athletes on the screen, it covers everything from Paralympians to Olympians to rugby players to boxers to basketball players. And really I wanted to make sure that we covered a multitude of sports. And even with the second book series, I found it really difficult to try to make sure that we were still covering a load of sports, because for lots of boys and girls, maybe they're into horse riding or maybe they're into tobogganing. It doesn't really matter what you're into, but it's just that you can identify with some people out there who play your sport. And that was really important to this book series as well, which is why you see lots of different sports represented. The other really cool thing about this book that I loved is when I was putting it together, I really wanted this to showcase lots of female talent, not just the athletes themselves, but also the illustrators. So I kind of put the feelers out there to see, would there be 5 female Irish illustrators who would agree to work together on this project? And I was so lucky to find the people who were involved with this project, because you had some really, really experienced illustrators, and you had some illustrators who hadn't done a lot of work together. And I just didn't really know how they would all fit. But actually, when I asked Sinead Collar, Rachel Corcoran, Jennifer Farley, Jennifer Murphy, and Lauren O'Neill to work together, they were all like immediately, yes, this is an amazing project and we really want to be part of it. And, there's such diversity in their illustrations. And I love that, because there's none of them are the same. And you can just flick through the book and see the color in it. And I'm so proud of the work that they did on this, because it really celebrates like brilliant Irish women and not just the athletes. And the athletes really love that as well, which was cool. So this is what the finished product looks like. It's, an amazing fairy tale story there on the left with their autograph, and then the illustrations, which to me are the coolest part about the book. Like Denise O'Sullivan is one of the best footballers in the world, and she happens to be Irish, and we're very lucky to have her, but she is the Roy Keane of women's football, and she's that good, and she's from Cork. And like, even when I sent this to Denise and I was like, look, the illustrators really want to do your picture. Can you send me a photo of your tattoos on your arm? And she was like, oh, class. I love that they're going to get such detail. So they were really into the process as well. And I really, really loved that. So when I'm talking about the success of the book, sometimes people say, oh, isn't it great? It sold lots of copies, and the first one sold over 20,000. The second one's at over 10,000, which is amazing and all that. To me, the real success is going out and talking to kids. I have been, even in the pandemic, which has been difficult, I've talked to over 100 schools and classes, and talking to them and hearing their stories and seeing them writing their own versions of Girls Play 2 has been so powerful to me. And the other major success factor for me when I'm measuring the differences from when I was a young girl to now is, look at all these stories. Katie Taylor live on pay-per-view TV, Katie George Dunleavy and Eve McChrystal when they won all their Paralympic medals this year, live on TV. Leona Maguire being an absolute superstar at the Solheim Cup, live on Sky Sports. Katie McCabe every single weekend performing for Arsenal is live on Sky Sports on a Saturday afternoon at 3:00 in primetime television. The Meath ladies footballers and the amazing story that they pulled off this year, live on TV. When I was a kid, that wasn't happening. And to me, the real progress is, yes, we can go out there and we can create lovely stories and try to bring the next generation on by telling them about these girls and how brilliant they are. But you need young people to see them. And being on TV is what the difference is. And I can't tell you how proud it is to see all of these sports being live on TV this year has been phenomenal. A lot of that is down to the characters. Like when you look at people like Katie Taylor, there is a reason why young girls in this country are boxing, and Katie Taylor is a lot to do with that. I've been very lucky that I've got to cover her career. The one in the top right hand of your corner there is when Katie won her Olympic gold medal in 2012. I was there. And over on the top left, I got to present her with an award when she won Sports Person of the Year. And got to spend the evening with her, which was lovely. And then when she turned professional, I got to go over and cover her fights. And, I know Katie for a long time, but getting to be there with her and knowing what it means to her and watching her signing all the autographs after the fights is actually what's bringing on the next generation. Same with Rachel Blackmore. She's a very softly spoken, she doesn't like all the accolades of it, but actually what she has done for sport in Ireland, and not just women in sport, but just for sport in Ireland, to see that we are creating people like this has been phenomenal. And everybody in Ireland now knows who she is, which, is a really great thing for Irish sport. Same with this champion, Kellie Harrington. I think when she won her Olympic gold medal this year, it changed her as a person in terms of what she had achieved. But actually, the joy of Kellie is that she is the same person who she was when she was 5 years old, when she just wanted to start boxing, as she is now. And very quick funny story about Kellie. After she won her Olympic gold medal, in RTE, we have a tradition when we meet them of, we bring them into the office, we do an interview with them, and we ask them, what's the one thing you want? And we'll go and get it for you. And Kellie Harrington, I'm sure any of you, what do you think she wanted? What's your favorite treat meal when your parents ever take you out? Yep, McDonald's. That is what Kellie Harrington wanted. All she wanted was a Big Mac meal from McDonald's and a Coke, which is funny because you've just won an Olympic medal and you wonder, how do you want to spend the day? But that's all Kellie Harrington wanted to do. And it's funny because a lot of Olympians are that way, which is amazing. But she's a superstar and she's done a huge amount for Irish sport this year. The other really cool thing with the success in this book that I have loved personally is how it makes the athletes feel. So when Ellen Keane, when I sent her the book, she sent me back this beautiful message about how emotional she was and how, just amazing it was to see herself in a book. And this picture on the right is what she put on her Instagram account. And I love even that she said, this is how I hold the book open, because it's so empowering. The amount of children who saw that, and, I'll show you a story in a minute of Ellen had met this young girl who had a disability just like hers. And when she saw her holding the book, she took a picture just like that as well. And you'd be so amazed of the impact that athletes can have on young children by doing something as simple as just being so proud to be in the book and holding it this way as well, which I really, really loved. So this little girl at the bottom left is the girl that Ellen met, Fia. And when she won her Paralympic gold medal, she brought her on TV with her just to show her what it meant and how she loved inspiring her. And it's the same with Gemma O'Connor there at the top left. This little girl came down to watch Gemma training for camogie every week just to be like her. And now this little girl has started playing camogie. Same with Rachel Blackmore, meeting lots of young girls who want to become jockeys. And then Kellie Harrington with this little girl coming to meet her as well. And I always say to people, you should always meet your heroes, because particularly sports people like this, they were just like you one day. When they were growing up, they had dreams and aspirations, just like lots of kids in Ireland will have, and lots of kids abroad who, dream of representing their country, or, whatever it is that you really, really want to be. You have to remember that at one point in all of their lives, they were 7 years old, they were 10 years old, thinking about all the things that they could be. And it's amazing when you go along and you realize what that is, anytime I go out and I meet young girls and boys and I'm signing books or whatever, I always ask them, what do you want to be? And lots of them want to be footballers, or lots of them want to, be musicians or whatever it is. But I'm always saying, dream it, go for it, because you never know what's going to happen. Maybe some of you will be future stars of the book. You just never know. But I would always say, aim for it, because what's the worst that can happen? You'll have an amazing adventure chasing your dream, and you just might achieve it as well. Leona Maguire had this amazing video after she won the Solheim Cup. She put this picture on her Instagram that said, to all the little girls with big dreams, chase them. It won't be easy, but I promise it's worth it. And Leona Maguire has dreamed of playing in the Solheim Cup for Europe since she was a child. And when she did it, she did this with the hashtag #CanSeeCanBe. And remember at the start, I was talking about the hashtag for 20 by 20 for the campaign was can't see, can't be. Well, the power when you can see it. You would not believe the amount of young girls who have taken up golf in the last year because of Leona Maguire and because of what she's doing. And she's really changing the landscape for lots of people in Ireland. And she has really taken that very seriously. And I love that for her. And then this is probably my favorite picture of the year. Rachel Blackmore is going to be Sports Person of the Year all over the world this year. That's how good she is. And Aintree Racecourse, after she won the Grand National this year, had this tweet, and it was how it started. And that is Rachel Blackmore on her little pony at home at 2 years of age. And then this year when she won the Grand National. And that's why I always say dream big, because you never know where it's going to take you. But it is so important to have dreams, and it is so important to follow them. And look, I've really loved doing this book. And, you know, I suppose for me, a lot of it has been writing their stories and enjoying it as much with the athletes as I could, because really it's their stories, and I'm just glad to be able to do it. One of the reasons why I wrote the book is because there wasn't a book like that when I was younger, and I wish there was a book when I was a young girl. So for me, it's all about just trying to document their stories so you learn lots more about their sports stars, and then maybe when you meet them one day, that you might have the chance to grow up to be just like them as well. So hopefully you enjoy reading the books, and hopefully you all have an amazing Christmas, celebrating all your own dreams and your aspirations as well. And thanks a million.